Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Glad to be here with all of you. So we're doing these morning chill streams. This is the second one we're doing this week. And this is just kind of me checking in with all of you while I am waking up and drinking my unnamed diet beverage as we build for the Center for Political Innovation National Gathering that is coming up next week. Headed to Chicago next week for the Center for Political Innovation's National Gathering. And these chill streams, these morning chill streams, are part of my preparation for that. I've got a lot of things that I'm doing, but if I start the day by having a little chill stream where I just show some videos and talk to you all for a little bit, that's a way to get my mind in the right place and head for Chicago. I'm quite excited. I accomplished quite a bit yesterday in terms of logistics for the convention. A lot of things are coming together. And, it's not easy to put on a convention. A lot of people think it's a very easy thing to do. It looks all very simple, but there's many, many different moving parts. And this year, because of the economy and everything, it's been a little bit more stressful than usual. But we have to make sure everything is where we need it. And we're doing a pretty good job. That's the Center for Political Innovation National Convention. You can register at this link. Hold on. Let me pull up the link for you to register. All right. If you'd like to register, it's in the chat below. It's in the description, but it's also here. I'll put it in the chat here where you can register. We'd love to have you join us in Chicago. It's going to be a great day. And we really see the urgent need for an anti-imperialist movement, a vast anti-imperialist movement in America right now. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. We need to build a movement. And so we have to put on a convention. We have to gather people together, and we have to prepare to go into the midterm elections and hit the ground running. That's what we're doing, and that's why we're putting on this important convention in Chicago. I called this stream, "The People of a Small Country Can Surely Defeat Aggression by a Big Country." That comes from a quote that comes from Mao Zedong in one of the last statements of Mao Zedong. It's very poetic. It's very, very poetic. And I believe I will pull up, it's just a few paragraphs that Mao gave in, I believe, 1970, 1972, something like that. It's one of the final statements of his life. Yeah, not the last one, but May 23rd of 1970, Mao Zedong, he gave a statement called "People of the World Unite and Defeat the U.S. Aggressors and Their Running Dogs." That was Mao's final statement. Hey, Penny, good to see you. Yeah, well, hey, it was a lot easier to get up yesterday and be here on time. But here I am again for another morning chill stream. And, I can't believe I'm here this early either, but hey, here we go. Yeah, that was one of Mao Zedong's final statements as he was getting old, getting up there in age, May 23rd, 1970. And he said, ever since World War II, he said, a new upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, the people of all countries must get prepared. Revolution is the main trend in the world today. That's the first paragraph. And then the final paragraph of the statement, is innumerable facts prove that a just cause enjoys tremendous support, while an unjust cause enjoys little support. The people of a small country can surely defeat aggression by a big country. if only they dare to rise in struggle, take up arms, and grasp in their own hand the destiny of their country. This is a law of history. That's what he said, right? A weak nation can defeat a strong. A small nation can defeat a big. The people of a small country can surely defeat aggression by a big country, if only they dare to rise in struggle, dare to take up arms, and grasp in their own hands the destiny of their country. This is a law of history. That's the end of the statement. It's quite profound. I quote that in the Houthi book. We wrote a book, Who Are the Houthis and What Are They Fighting For? That we've distributed in bulk across the country to raise awareness, because very few people in America know who Ansar Allah in Yemen are, but yet they have been standing with the whole world. And, recently, this book, I'm really proud to say that we have distributed this book in bulk across America to raise awareness about who the Houthis are, to show, the history of their movement and kind of use them as an example of an anti-colonial mass movement. This book is less than 100 pages, but basically when they became the champions of the whole world against Israel, blocking ships in the Red Sea in solidarity with the Palestinians, I said, I've got a story here to tell. And so I threw this book together rather quickly, but it needed to be done, and we've distributed it all across America. And many people have read it and been very moved by it. Somebody in Chicago, there was a member in Chicago, an older man who joined CPI just because he read this book, and we gave it to him, and he didn't read it for months. It just kind of sat on his shelf. But then one day he was at home and he read the book, and he was just blown away by it, and he ended up joining CPI because of it. This is something. Somebody came at me on Twitter over the Houthi book recently, and they said, "Oh, you're making money on this book, and and why did you call them Houthis instead of Ansar Allah?" I get that one a lot. Well, if I'd called this book "Who is Ansar Allah," nobody would know what the book was about, right? Nobody would know what the book was about. In media, in U.S. media, they call them Houthis, so we had to call it "Who Are the Houthis?" Somebody came at me on Twitter. "Oh, how dare you distribute this, this book? You're making profit. How much of the money are you giving to Yemen?" Well, first of all, I can't legally give money to Yemen, right? I mean, the Houthis are a designated foreign terrorist organization. So if I was writing them checks, I'd go to jail. So there's that. But secondly, we have spent far more money printing the book and distributing it in bulk than we have made on the book. I mean, we haven't made that much money on the book. I will say it has sold significantly, but, in terms of what we've then gone to the local print shop that I work with here and printed it in bulk and just handed them out. We want people to know the true story of who the Houthis are. We want to build an anti-imperialist movement. And I wrote that book, and it's all there. I mean, it talks about the Houthis. It talks about imperialism, globalism. It talks about people of the land and civilizations of the sea. It's called, People of the Land Fighting Back is one of the chapters in the book. The whole book is on here as an audio book. You can listen to it. We were trying to raise anti-imperialism, trying to teach people about imperialism and how the Houthis, Ansar Allah, are an anti-imperialist movement. Some of the poorest people in the world fighting and building a revolutionary anti-colonial movement on the basis of their religion and fighting back against Zionism and imperialism and demanding economic development. And I have sermons from Hussein al-Houthi, the founder, and Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the current leader of the Ansar Allah movement. And I quote them, well, you can't say that, right? If you say that on social media, you're not allowed to say such things. So, and I've had issues, you got to be careful how you talk about them even. But we wrote this book, Who Are the Houthis? What Are They Fighting For? And distributed it in bulk. And in that book, I quote that statement. And, I have a whole story I can tell some other time. I've probably told it before about, how I was on a ship trying to deliver medical aid to Yemen. And that was an amazing, life-changing experience. But anyhow, I'm still drinking my soda. We got to do the arms exercise here. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still drinking my soda. So I'm going to put on the song that the great British anti-imperialist composer Cornelius Cardew did of the Mao quote, "The people of a small country." It's actually, the name of it is Vietnam's Victory. It's a song it's like a musical composition he did called Vietnam's Victory. And the words to it are the final statement of that beautiful, beautiful statement by Mao, the final paragraph about the people of a small country. So I'm going to put that on as I drink my soda. Then maybe I'll be wakened up enough that then we can do the arms exercise. But here we go. Here we go. Yeah. So these are chill streams, right? These are not big epic performances that I do every morning. The idea is I'm going to do a few of these this week as part of just kind of preparing for the CPI national gathering. We're having our big convention in Chicago on August 15th. And in order to prepare and get my mind in the right place and accomplish what I need to accomplish, I can't do the evening streams like I normally do. So instead, I'm going to be doing these morning chill streams to just kind of be with you all a little bit, show some videos, get my head in the right spot and everything. A couple things to comment on. And then I do need to make myself do the arms exercise. Whew. So I woke up this morning and, anyhow. All right. So Johanna Fernandez died. And I knew of Johanna Fernandez. She wasn't somebody I knew intimately. I think I met her at a few protests back in the day. But she is was a Black academic in New York City who was a member of the International Socialist Organization. She was a Trotskyite, and she was associated with the movement to free Mumia Abu-Jamal and a lot of kind of Black liberation causes. She talked about mass incarceration and such. I didn't know her well politically. She was not where I was at. I'm an anti-imperialist, and as much as she was an anti-imperialist in the sense that she stood with Mumia Abu-Jamal and stuff like that, her international line didn't really line up with where I'm at. She was not. The ISO was their perspective is very much not the CPI perspective. Let me just put it that way on international issues. But I'm just trying to find the picture over here. But she did die, and I saw that, and I remember seeing her, and I don't want to speak ill of the dead, and I never had a bad experience with her. She was just in a different tendency. She was politically on a different side than I was on a lot of international issues, but because she was so outspoken. And because the group I was in did a lot of stuff related to Black liberation, and it became trendy during the Obama years to talk about mass incarceration, things like that, right? And I remember there were events at like Riverside Church, in Harlem, where they'd have speakers, talk about mass incarceration and stuff. And she was just an academic in New York City who was associated with Black liberation politics and was a member of the International Socialist Organization, the ISO, it's interesting. The ISO, when I talk about Max Shachtman, that they were the Shachtman group, basically, what was left of them. They were, one of Leon Trotsky's big followers was a guy named Max Shachtman, and Max Shachtman broke with Trotsky over the question of the Soviet Union being a deformed workers' state or not. And he formed the Workers' Party and eventually the International Socialist League, or the Independent Socialist League. And they still maintained they were Bolsheviks. They just no longer supported the Soviet Union. They had neither Washington nor Moscow was their line. Then eventually Max Shachtman denounced Leninism, and he eventually, became a neocon. But followers of Max Shachtman at UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, they had a club called the Independent Socialist Club. And the Independent Socialist Club of UC Berkeley broke with Shachtman when he denounced Leninism and affiliated to Tony Cliff, who was a very prominent Trotskyist in Britain. And for a while, they were called the International Socialists, the IS, and for a while, they were called Workers' Power. And then in the 1980s, the big campus socialist leftist group was called the International Socialist Organization. Even when I was coming around in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, probably the biggest campus-based socialist group was called ISO, International Socialist Organization, ISO. They were on the college campuses, and they were very visible. I was never attracted to the ISO because I couldn't. For me, right? I grew up in my little town, my little small town. And, for me, I discovered at a young age that what I'd been told about communist economics was a lie, right? I kept like looking at economics as a young person, and I'd say, why do we have unemployed people? That doesn't make any sense. And I would look at, that capitalism, it just, all these things about capitalism didn't make economic sense. And whenever I would say, well, why don't we just make sure everyone has a job? Why don't we just organize the economy rationally? Everyone would say, well, that's communism. You can't do that. And I'd be like, oh, and why? Well, communism just failed everywhere it's ever been tried. You just can't do that. It's communism. And so then when I looked into actual statistics and saw that no, communism didn't fail everywhere it's ever been tried. The Soviet Union had the world's largest power plants and the world's highest, production of steel, and raised millions of people out of poverty, et cetera. I was like, well, this is bullshit. The idea that communism just failed, that's just not actually true. That's statistically not true. And everyone just repeated this thing that wasn't not actually true. Communism just never worked. That's just not factual, right? That economic data shows the Soviet Union and Cuba and China and other countries have had astronomical economic successes. This lie, is central. So I was never interested in the ISO. I first encountered them the first time I ever met somebody from the ISO, the International Socialist Organization. I was a senior in high school. And one of the Maoist groups was driving from Cleveland to Columbus, Ohio. And they drove me they picked me up from my little town. I was a senior in high school. I was 18. And so my parents couldn't really stop me at that point. And so I was 18 and they picked me up in my little town. And we went down to Columbus for a few days to participate. There were like immigrant rights demonstrations that were going on in 2006 against the Schumer bill, right? 2006 was a big year. And I went to this protest in Columbus, Ohio, and there was the ISO. They had a literature table, and they had a few people walking around. They had a newspaper they sold called The Socialist Worker. I remember I bought one of their newspapers from them for $1. And on the first page, it was like you open it up and it said, what are our like 4 main points? The first point of their like 4 main points was the Soviet Union, China, Cuba, North Korea. These countries have nothing to do with socialism. These are Stalinist dictatorships. And I was just like, fuck you. And I wanted nothing to do with them because I was angry because I'd been lied to. And here they are repeating the lie. It's like, all through America, we're told communism just never worked anywhere. It's a big failure. And that's a lie. And here we have an actual socialist group that, that is saying that. And so I was just not interested in the ISO at all. And I was angry with them. I was like, I felt like it was almost like betraying a friend. You know what I mean? It's like, if you have a friend and they're being bullied or they're being picked on and you say, oh, I don't know them. I just felt like betrayal. I mean, maybe it was my religious upbringing, right? I think about, right. Peter, saying about Jesus, right. I don't know him. I don't know him. Right. I just felt like, that the whole reason I'd become interested in this stuff was I was angry about the lies about these countries. And to see a socialist group that's like entire premise was going, oh, we have nothing to do with those countries. I was just not interested in that. But the ISO had much bigger problems than that. I mean, there's a lot of what these people, might call social democrats or Trotskyites or others. There's a lot of people like that, in activist spaces that are pro-imperialist socialists that don't offend. But the ISO had bigger problems than that. They were kind of a rich kids club. And that's what they were kind of infamous for was, it was very much, pay to play. It was, you had to pay a lot of money, and it was kind of a rich kids club, ISO. And they liquidated, actually. They're no longer in existence. They merged into DSA, and they're a faction of DSA now. I don't know. I mean, I just, for whatever reason, for my politics, I was never attracted to ISO. It was just not my thing. And I always saw ISO as like a white group, right? It was like white upper class college kids that would always be like very kind of white upper class college kids that would, they were always trying to sell you a newspaper or sell you their latest book. and you know, I don't know. And so, you know, but I remember when I moved to New York City, after I'd been in New York City, you know, 2011, 2012, there would be these big events at Riverside Church. Obama was president, and you know, it was kind of setting the stage for Black Lives Matter and things like that. And like Angela Davis, you know, the big former communist intellectual, you know, was giving speeches, and you know, Mumia Abu-Jamal was the political prisoner. And I remember there were big events at Riverside Church, and I would see ISO there, you know, and ISO would be there, and Johanna Fernandez would be a speaker, and she's an academic, and she's, you know, she was a member of ISO for a long time. You know, so I remember seeing that and kind of being surprised, because I didn't realize that ISO was, you know, they generally, you know, they hadn't generally been a group associated with Black liberation politics. They were kind of more, they were like college kids who supported labor unions, that kind of thing. But Johanna Fernandez was an academic associated with them, who'd written books on the history of the Young Lords and things. And she spoke, and you know, she was a side of the ISO that was a little bit different. But yeah, she recently passed on, and so, you know, I met her a couple times. You know, I guess, you know, I just that came up, and it sounds like she did a lot of important organizing, and she did write a history of the Young Lords, the Puerto Rican Socialist Party, which was a very anti-imperialist, you know, Marxist-Leninist organization, you know, kind of modeled on the Black Panthers, but around, you know, but fighting for Puerto Rican liberation. The Puerto Rican Socialist Party that wanted the independence of Puerto Rico, and the Young Lords was how they started out, and they became that. And she apparently wrote a whole book about the Young Lords. I'm tempted to go buy it now. I didn't know she had written that, and I would be very interested in the history of the Young Lords. So, you know, I just wanted to mention that I saw that she had passed on. And, you know, again, you know, I mean, it sounds like this is a person who did a lot of important work and did some good scholarship. Politics, not where I'm at necessarily, but, you know, I mean, it's all very confusing. It's all very confusing. I mean, these are the kind of things, and we're in this bizarre place. I mean, as Penny was saying in the chat, we're not communists anymore. We're innovationists. Because it used to be, you know, the reason I'm telling these stories about back in the day with ISO and all of that, it used to be very few people in America identified with socialism and communism. And now that's not the case. Now, you know, DSA, it's kind of widespread. There's all these people who identify that way, who don't agree with me, and don't share the same values that I share. You know, and it used to be that if I told people I was a socialist or a communist, they would say, wow, how can you possibly be that? And I could say, well, let me tell you. And I would tell them all about it. Now, if I say that, people go, oh, I know what you are. And they have a caricature in their head that has nothing to do with me. And the caricature in their head is of an angry teenager with, you know, purple hair and nose piercings, who thinks that all Republicans are Nazis and is obsessed with the trans issue. And that's not me. You know, it's not me at all. And, you know, I'm an anti-imperialist, and I studied Lenin and I studied Marx, and I've traveled around the world. And I realized when I was in my 20s that the global anti-imperialist camp is not really communist anymore in the sense that they were during the Cold War. But you can't even really understand that if you don't understand that imperialism, the system of monopolistic capitalism, the system where big banks and corporations rule the world, big monopolies based in Western countries rule the world and keep the world poor and keep countries poor. And that what the revolutions of the 20th century were about, it was about countries that were kept poor by the domination of Western monopolies, breaking free from Western imperialist domination and asserting their ability to have economic growth. And what Stalin did when he took over Russia, when the Soviet Union came into existence, you know, they didn't try to make everyone equal. They had 5-year economic plans to build the country and make it more prosperous. That's what it was about. It was about growth, right? Penny, who's in the chat, you know, she just wrote a great book, and I just, you know, finished laying it out and sending it to the printers. She's got a whole new book about Ibrahim Traore and about the AES, the Alliance of Sahel States in West Africa. And are they communists? I mean, they clearly are inspired by the Soviet Union, Tomas Sankara and all of that. But what it's about, especially Penny documents this with all kinds of statistics and information. She did a very thorough investigation. It's about growth. right? It's about growth. It's about the fact that, these West African countries have been kept poor by imperialism, and they want to have economic growth. That's what it's about. And that's what they're doing. And it's just like what Stalin did with the 5-year plans. It's just like what China has done with building themselves up, right? And the revolutions that have happened in the oppressed countries, it's about the fact that they don't want to be kept poor by the imperialists. And in order to break out of imperialist domination, they have a revolutionary state, a state that comes out of a mass upsurge of the population, that controls the economy and plans the economy so they can have economic growth. And ultimately, I think we need that in America. We need to break America out of the rule of the big monopolies, right? And we need a government that invests in people and invests in the population and ensures economic growth. Is that communism? Is that socialism? Well, I would have thought it was, but if you talk to young communists and socialists, that's not what they believe, right? Communism and socialism in America is associated with the welfare state and taxing people. Communism and socialism in America is associated with, kind of liberal policies. I'm working on one of my side projects. I got a million side projects. A couple weeks ago, I did a slideshow on this channel called "Could a Revolution Actually Happen? How could a revolution in America actually happen?" I'm turning that into a little pamphlet. I worked on it a lot yesterday. And in that pamphlet, I quote about Blanqui, right? This was a guy who was a guy who lived at the same time that Karl Marx lived, right? Louis Auguste Blanqui, right? This guy. Marx and Engels wrote a lot about Louis Auguste Blanqui, and they said, look, this guy is a socialist only in the sense that he cares about people. He cares, right? He cares about the poor and all of that. But if you look at his teachings, he has no there's no understanding of the system. It's all just basically the government right now is made up of people that don't care about the poor. So I'm going to organize a coup. I'm going to take over. And I do care about the poor, and I'm nice. The people in power are mean, but when I take over, I'm nice, and I'm going to make things better. That's what most socialists in America are. They're like Louis Auguste Blanqui. It's just, when I'm in charge, I'm going to make policies that are nice because I care. Well, that's not actually a systemic critique, right? And that capitalism is the only system in history that has this problem of overproduction, poverty amid plenty, poverty created by abundance. And poverty created by abundance, right, leads to all kinds of unnatural problems that can only be resolved by centralizing the banks, factories, and industries and having public ownership and centralizing the means of production to make sure that you have growth. And so when we communicate that we're innovationists, that's a way of making clear that we have an understanding that is not, the communist understanding, and even like regular communism, dialectical materialism, I take issue with. I don't think that all that exists is matter. I do recognize there's a spiritual aspect to reality, right? That the material plane is not all that exists, and that, if it wasn't for thoughts and emotions and God and all of that, these things exist, right? And that material plane is not all that exists, and that arguing that conflict then defines reality, right? That is where it kind of leads to this very, very negative place. And so, I don't know, innovationism is a new stage. It's a new stage. We're pioneering a new stage because, just doing the communism thing. If you're just stuck doing the communism thing, you're out of step with the global anti-imperialist movement. The Iranians are not communists. They're Shia Muslims, right? The Russians, there's a communist party in Russia that's very big, but the leader of it is an Orthodox Christian, Gennady Zyuganov. I've met him, been in the same room as him. I covered the Russian elections in 2018, is he a communist? Well, he's very proud of Lenin and Stalin. And all of that, but he's not an atheist. He's not a dialectical materialist. And that if you're stuck doing the communism thing, right, that kind of cuts you off from global anti-imperialism, and it cuts you off from the American people. It just, in America, any conversation about socialism or communism immediately becomes a conversation about making everyone equal. And that's not what it's about. What we need is not a government that'll make everyone equal. What we need is a government of action that'll fight for working families, that'll break America out of imperialism and reorganize the economy to invest in people and make sure we have economic growth. We need a government kind of like what Ibrahim Traore is doing in Burkina Faso, investing in the population. That's what we need. And, you know, we need a state that organizes the economy to raise up living standards. We don't have that here in America. We have a state that just kind of sits back while our country rots and wages wars around the world to enrich the big monopolies and corporations. And we need the opposite of that. But anyhow, I'm going to drink the rest of my soda here, and then I'm going to have to do the arms exercise. I made a commitment that I'm going to do the arms exercise every day until I leave for Chicago. So, you know, yesterday, it was a lot easier to get up and do the morning chill stream. Today, it wasn't so easy. That's how these things work, you know? And so, you know, I'm going to finish my soda here, and then I'm going to do the arms exercise. But, you know, why don't I put this on? So another thing that comes up is, you know, when I talk about why the left, the so-called left, is so confused, I keep coming back to the Congress for Cultural Freedom. So I'm going to put this video on. This is a clip, you know, somebody made. They interviewed me about the Congress for Cultural Freedom. And this is just they put images with me explaining what the Congress for Cultural Freedom was. So here we go.
Starting in 1949, the CIA launched a program called the Congress for Cultural Freedom and started funneling money to anti-communist leftists. Generally, the people that made up the Congress for Cultural Freedom were followers of the Trotskyite Max Shachtman. And Shachtman, after World War II, his followers, one of them being Irving Kristol, who is the father of neoconservatism, started working for the CIA. And Irving Kristol was actually the director of the CIA's Congress for Cultural Freedom program, where they started covertly giving money to leftists in order to put out an anti-Soviet message. And the magazine Partisan Review, which was purported to be a communist socialist magazine, and it was all over the college campuses. Every campus you went to, you could find Partisan Review, and it was this subversive communist magazine, except it like every issue was devoted to exposing the Stalinists. And a lot of the, you know, what was done in Partisan Review magazine was equating the Soviets with the Nazis, right? And saying that it's basically the same system. And direct CIA payments to pay for their operations were supplemented by the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller think tanks and other things. And various left-wing academics were getting subsidized by getting paid lots of money to have their articles appear in this magazine that was everywhere. And this was the conscious manipulation. And you talk about the Frankfurt School and the rise of this new, and it's weird because on the right, they have this whole thing about cultural Marxism. Right. Well, what they're missing is that a lot of these like cultural critics that really emphasized Gramsci really downplayed the idea of class struggle. Emphasized. You had Herbert Marcuse, who said that the working class was not revolutionary; the intellectuals were the revolutionaries. All of this was being covertly supported as a way to kind of direct intellectuals and leftists away from Marxism. And in the process, they changed really the nature of what leftism was. You know, the anti-populism came out. Susan Sontag is a really important voice in this milieu. And so Hannah Arendt also comes out of this. And anti-populism, the idea that average people are the enemy, that average people are dangerous, and if they ever get together and start fighting for their rights, that's basically the same as Nazi Germany. That became a big theme in what it meant to be a leftist, this kind of intellectual nonconformity.
Well, thank you, Bill Hicks, for your super chat there. I do appreciate that. And, the reason I'm doing this is because we are building for our national gathering, our national convention, August 15th. And so, yeah, that's going to help, Bill. Any contribution people can send will make that go much more smoothly. And I'm spending my days here kind of putting everything together. So thank you, Bill, for the super chat. And if people want to donate directly to the convention, to CPI, go to cpiusa.org/donate. I sent a rant yesterday about Molly Cotton Processing Factory. Very good. I'm sorry I missed it, Penny. I will go check. But thank you, Bill Hicks, and please, anyone who can send a contribution to help us put on the convention, that would be great. I'm going to do the arms exercise now. That is my commitment that I made, is that every day this week, every day until I depart for Chicago next Tuesday, I would do the arms exercise. So we're going to do the arms exercise. And then I'll talk about a few more things if we have them to talk about. Right. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to do the arms exercise. I always do it with the John Philip Sousa music. So we're going to do that. Right. And, this is just an exercise I do that helps me straighten my back, maintain good posture. And it also, it's just good in general. And I always put on the John Philip Sousa music while I do it. So yeah, this exercise is basically you hold your arms above your head as long as you can in order to maintain upper body strength. Now, last time I did it for 10 minutes and 43 seconds. So we're going to see how long I can do it today. So yeah, get ready. Here we go. All right. Let's hope I can do it longer today. All right, we're ready. All set. Not a good shirt for this. All right. Woo. That was 8 minutes and 26 seconds. Not the best I've ever done, but I'm not feeling particularly energetic this morning. Yesterday, I did about 10 minutes. That was 8 minutes and 26 seconds. So there we go. All right, folks. Whew. Yeah, for some reason, I'm just feeling it. Whether it's the allergies or whatnot, but we'll do it again tomorrow, right? The arms exercise, which is a good thing to do. So, yeah. So this is a chill stream for those of you who haven't been around. If you're just dropping in, we're doing these chill streams to prepare for heading to Chicago for the CPI national gathering that is coming up on August 15th. And yeah, we're doing these chill streams. I'm going to put on a good talk that Noah, a CPI organizer, member, regional captain in Boston gave. And this is a talk that he gave about, kind of about why it is that we call ourselves innovationists rather than socialists or communists. He called it, it's kind of a clever premise. He called it socialist snake oil. So we're going to put on Noah's presentation. This was from our gathering in January that we did in New Jersey.
Thank you for that. So before I introduce our keynote speaker, I'd like to touch a little bit on something that makes CPI really special as an organization, and that is that what we offer is political clarity. We're not LARPing as a political party. We know we're not that, but we really offer something special, and that's political clarity in a time where things are very, very, very crazy. And last year, something pretty disturbing happened, I'm sure you all remember, and that is Brian Thompson, the CEO of an insurance company, was assassinated. He was murdered on the streets of New York City in cold blood. It was a political assassination. And I'm not here to defend Brian Thompson. I don't think he was a very good person, and he contributed to the suffering of thousands and thousands of people. But all of a sudden, he was killed, and the internet is flooded with all this talk of this love for the person who allegedly did it, Luigi Mangione. And he's so handsome and good-looking, and I'm not even sure that Luigi Mangione did it. I have a lot of questions. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. All the pictures we've seen, I don't know. But the internet was not flooded with that. It was flooded with, he did it. And that's awesome. I love murder. And even though it was unpopular, and we wouldn't have gotten as many likes and shares and retweets if we had said, Luigi Mangione is so awesome, thank you, internet. Instead, we decided to publish a book, and we published The Danger of an American Years of Lead. And it makes an argument that used to be really, really standard on the left. It used to be something that I would think is common sense, and that's that left adventurism is bad, and terrorism is also bad, and that isolated acts of political violence are not the answer. There's actually, in the classic American novel, The Grapes of Wrath, it's one of my favorite, novel about how suffering changes people. There's a part of that talks exactly about this. And there's a farmer, and he's on his property, and somebody who's hired by the bank to foreclose on his home is basically bulldozing his home. And he comes out with his gun, and he has a conversation with the person who's about to bulldoze his home. And he says, get off my property or I'm going to shoot you. And the person who's bulldozing his home says, well, what would that solve? They would just call the sheriff. And he says, well, then I'd shoot the sheriff. And he said, okay, but then they would just hire another cop. And they go through person after person after person, all the way up to the CEO of the company, of the bank that wants to bulldoze his home. And he explains to him, well, even if you were to kill the CEO of that bank, they're just going to put somebody in who would do the exact same thing because they're being paid. That's all the system can produce. The problem is not any one individual. It's the system. There's no person who you can go out and shoot. And there was this extremely disturbing trend where the ruling class, for whatever reason, has decided that we need political violence. And it was made more and more clear with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This was just a few months ago. And I don't agree with Charlie Kirk about very much. He was right about like 1.5 issues, I would say. But he was pretty good on those 1.5 issues. But he was killed, and the memo went out to the left on the internet. And they said, we need to celebrate this. And we need to be really shrill, and we need to go on there. And this guy was just violently murdered on the internet, shot in the neck in cold blood in front of a crowd of people, in front of his wife and kids. And we need to go out there and celebrate and cheer and look like a bunch of crazy people. And then the memo got sent out to the right that said, the left is trying to kill you. And I don't blame them for being upset at the idea that half the country is trying to kill them. And this is a culture of political violence, and it's not coming from below. This is not organic, because the internet is controlled by forces who are not organic. It's controlled by the State Department. We know this. The Hillary Clinton State Department has been using regime change, using social media for regime change all around the world for years and years and years. That's coming from above. And that's because the system that we live in, the system of globalism, imperialism, is in a profound crisis. It's collapsing. It can't sustain itself any longer. We've been in a depression since like 2008, and they just can't seem to fix their system. They can't seem to adapt to AI. And there's a danger that factions within dissident MAGA, within elements of the ruling class who may want to pull away from NATO. And that represents a huge challenge to the foreign policy establishment in the United States. And they did the very same thing in Italy, where you had the Christian Democrats and the Communist Party came together to form a coalition and decide that they wanted Italy to be a sovereign country, and they wanted to pull out of NATO. And what happened? The CIA did Operation Gladio, and they decided that they were not going to go in there with a violent US occupation like was done in Greece. That was the first instance of napalm being used on civilians. Instead, they were going to fund the Red Brigades, who were a group of communist terrorists, and they didn't say, well, we support the USA. They said, well, we're the real communists. And if you were a real communist, you would go out and you would break the legs of the Communist Party and anybody who wants to pull out of NATO. And a similar thing happened in Jamaica. They elected Michael Manley, who was sort of like a Bernie Sanders kind of figure in Jamaica, and he hired Donald Harris, actually Kamala Harris's father, who was a Marxist economist. And it looked like he was going to be friendlier to Cuba, to be friendlier to the anti-imperialist world. And what happened? They created the Shower Posse, a violent gang, to begin breaking people's legs and shooting them. And people became afraid to get political. And that's what they want to do. They want to make it so that people are afraid to be political. And you know, there's been a lot of talk about why was it that Charlie Kirk was killed, and people try and find justifications. Well, maybe it was about this and that. I'm not going to speculate, but one thing is very clear. It's that in spite of, you know, what you think about what Charlie Kirk said or believed, he was encouraging young people to get political. He was going to college campuses and having conversations with people, and there were thousands and thousands of young people in this country who looked up to Charlie and who believed that they should begin to be active, and that's something that cannot happen. They need us to fight amongst themselves so that they can rule by default. But none of the leftist groups could even say that the murder of Charlie Kirk was wrong. The Party of Sellouts and Liberals, PSL, released a statement, and they called Charlie Kirk a white supremacist, and they said he deserved to die, which I'm sure goes over really well with half the population who are terrified that you are going to kill them, say, yeah, and that person who you all looked up to, he deserved it. And you know, these people, they're not really organizers. You know, these internet fan clubs that call themselves communist parties in the United States, they're snake oil salesmen. Are folks familiar with the term snake oil salesman? Well, actually, I'm going a little bit deeper with the term snake oil salesman. A lot of people don't know where the term comes from. So snake oil is actually a part of traditional Chinese medicine. A lot of people don't know this, but the water snake in China, it produces a kind of oil that actually acts as like an anti-inflammatory. And so people would put, like when the Chinese immigrants would come to build the railroads across the United States, they would put it on their joints, and it kind of acted like it soothed them after a long day of work. So why did we get this idea that snake oil is a scam? Well, there was this guy, and his name was Clark Stanley, and he called himself the Rattlesnake King, that's not even the right kind of snake to get snake oil from. But he would do these elaborate shows, and he would go around the country, and he would say, this snake oil, it's going to cure your ills. And he would take rattlesnakes, and he would throw it in a boiling pot, and he would say, it's going to solve all your problems. This snake oil, you just need to buy it from me. It'll serve all your problems. It's a cure oil. And some muckraking journalist came along, and they revealed, this is crazy, there wasn't any snake oil. Not only did it not help anybody, but there wasn't actually any snake oil in the product that he was selling. But if you ask the average person, you guys all know snake oil is a scam. Don't buy snake oil. And it's a very similar situation because the two have become synonymous. I know that snake oil is a scam, and so if I were to come up to you and tell you, well, actually it's a part of traditional Chinese medicine and you should buy snake oil from me, you'd look at me like I'm a crazy person. I would sound ridiculous. And I say that the DSA and the PSL and all of these socialist groups that speak in the name of the red flag, that wave the red flag to oppose the red flag, I say that they're snake oil salesmen. And that to go around trying to correct people about, well, actually, socialism doesn't mean what all of these people who say they're socialists think it believes. It actually means this other thing and it's like anti-imperialism and about managing the economy. You sound like a crazy person to them because they're like, well, I just talked to Mamdani over there and he told me socialism means I get free stuff and get to be really mad at rich people. That's what that means. I mean, it means that I get to really hate Republicans and think that they're all bad people and then I'm a super duper Democrat. So why would I go around and call myself a socialist? I'm a lot smaller than a lot of those people. Those groups are very big because they're being boosted by the establishment. And that's why we at the Center for Political Innovation have had our innovationist turn. I'm an innovationist, and I'm an innovationist because I believe in economic growth. I'm an innovationist because I stand with the oppressed and the exploited all around the world, because I want a society where the last shall be first and the first shall be last, because we believe that we need a government of action that fights for working families. That is absolutely what we need right now. We need a government that will stand up to Wall Street, to the billionaires that are keeping our country poor, starting wars all around the world. That's what socialism means to me. That's what innovation means to me. And that we need to build a movement of ordinary Americans that are going to oppose this imperialist system, that are going to oppose the bankers that say, Maduro is not my enemy, Wall Street is my enemy, that says Russia is not my enemy, Wall Street is my enemy, and that it doesn't matter who's in the White House, we need to oppose this system.
Yeah, that's a great speech by Noah. Made a lot of good points. A good way of, articulating, kind of what the innovationist turn is all about. That speech was also very good because it touched on the danger of years of lead, and that, I've written about that extensively, that they're trying to foment a culture of political violence in America to quell dissent. And that, I wrote this book, The Danger of an American Years of Lead. I wrote this after the Luigi Mangione arrest, after they accused Luigi Mangione and the internet was turning him into a hero. I wrote this before the Charlie Kirk incident. And, it's so true. I mean, they're trying to foment a culture of violence to keep the public divided, to keep the status quo intact. And that by kind of polarizing the population, by creating kind of a culture of fear, people don't show up for events like they once did. And part of it is fear of being attacked, fear of being canceled on the internet, but also fear of being physically attacked, right? And that this is part of the way they're trying to quell dissent. And in this book, I use 3 case studies of how, there were countries during the Cold War. There were countries during the Cold War that were going to move in an anti-imperialist direction, or had mass anti-imperialist movements. And by fomenting a culture of violence, the USA was able to prevent that. And the first example is the Years of Lead in Italy, Operation Gladio. The second example I use is Jamaica in the 1970s. And the third example is the IRA, Northern Ireland, how the IRA was defeated by kind of fomenting, confusing political violence surrounding it. And because of Jamaica and the 1970s, I've looked into that because of my investigation of Kamala Harris. Her father was close to Michael Manley and such. I'm actually going to put on, this is a song so Michael Manley was kind of the anti-imperialist socialist leader of Jamaica. He was elected. He was kind of a Bernie Sanders figure, but he was pro-Cuba, friendly to Cuba. And he was elected to be the leader of Jamaica. And the USA fomented all kinds of crazy political violence between him and his political rivals. And, Jamaica didn't move ultimately in an anti-imperialist direction. But this was a campaign song that was written for, oh, wow, the mic's not plugged in. Wow, that's great. Hopefully the audio is better now. This was a campaign song that was written for, how's the audio now? I bet the audio is better. Wow, what a morning. But anyway, this is a campaign song that Michael Manley did. This for Michael Manley's campaign. Max Romeo, who's a reggae musician, did this song, Socialism is Love, which I think is kind of a sweet song. It is kind of, well, I don't know, just listen to it.
You're asking what is socialism and what it really means. It's equal rights for every man, regardless of his strength. So don't let no one fool you. Joshua said, listen as I tell you. Joshua said, no man are better than none. Socialism is love between man and man. Socialism is love for your brother. Socialism is linking hearts and hands. Would you believe me? Poverty and hunger is what we're fighting. Socialism is sharing with your sister. Socialism is people pulling together. Would you believe me? Love and togetherness. That's what it means. Mr. Bigger trembling in his shoes, saying he's got a lot to lose. don't want to hear about sufferer at all. Joshua said, one man have too many, while too many have too little. Socialism don't stand for that, don't stand for that at all. Socialism is love for your brother. Socialism is linking hearts and heads. Poverty and hunger is what we're fighting. Socialism is sharing with your sisters. Socialism is people pulling together. Would you believe me? Love and togetherness. That's what it means. Socialism is love for your brother. Socialism is linking hearts and hands. Poverty and hunger is what we're fighting. Socialism is sharing with your sisters. Do you believe me? People pulling together. Oh, love and togetherness. That's what it means. Socialism is love for your brother. Socialism is linking hearts and hands. Poverty and hunger is what we're fighting. Socialism is sharing with your sisters. Socialism is people pulling together.
Yep, that was a Jamaican song supporting the government of Michael Manley. Socialism is love, is what they called it. Certainly amusing. But yeah, so we've got a difficult job in CPI, I will say, but we hold on. Sorry about that. We got a difficult job to do in CPI, but we have to do it. I mean, America needs an anti-colonial movement. We urgently need an anti-colonial movement. That's why all eyes are on Chicago. So I guess I will put on my letter to the members of CPI that I put out, kind of explaining why our upcoming convention is so important. And then we'll see if we have anything else. If anyone wants to send a super chat question or go to buymeacoffee.com/Caleb Mop and send a question, you can do that. But other than that, I mean, these are just kind of morning chill streams. We've been on for about an hour and 10 minutes. So I'm going to put on my letter to the CPI members about the upcoming convention. Then I'll answer any other questions people have, and that'll be our morning chill stream for today. So here we go. Public letter to all CPI members and friends from founder and director Caleb Maupin. Events are happening around the world at a very fast pace, and the political situation in the country is shifting quickly. Our upcoming national convention in Chicago on August 15th will have a fundamentally different character than any of the previous gatherings of our organization. Why? Because the way events are progressing indicates that we will have a vital and important role to play in events this fall surrounding the midterm elections. In order to move into action effectively, we must use the August gathering to solidify and refine our abilities. Trump has completely betrayed every anti-war and anti-establishment sentiment he pandered to during his 2024 campaign.
I don't think any two leaders have been as coordinated as President Trump and I.
His murderous and unnecessary war with Iran has resulted in oil prices surging to $100 per barrel and a crisis of inflation that makes the inflation he decried under Biden look tiny in comparison. The National Defense Authorization Act has widely controversial provisions that will merge key sections of the U.S. military with the Israeli military. The hope for peace in Ukraine has stalled, and conflict rages on, with U.S.-backed Kiev forces murdering Russian civilians on a daily basis with drone strikes. All of this has resulted in a reshuffling of the political spectrum. Many of Trump's most vocal supporters during the 2024 elections are now his harshest critics. Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, and Candace Owens have broken with the White House and become far more outspoken in their anti-war advocacy, opposition to Israel, and sympathetic view of anti-imperialist countries. Meanwhile, the Democratic camp, hoping to bank on anti-war sentiments as the midterms get closer, has softened its McCarthyist stances and begun to open the door to cooperation with anti-imperialists. Members of the Democratic Socialists of America now hold the office of mayor of New York City and have won key nominations for the midterm vote. I was warmly welcomed onto a podcast with prominent academic and DSA leader Cornel West. DSA-aligned YouTube channel Status Quo and Really American podcast have featured CPI, not in passing, but allowed us to blatantly advertise our 4-point plan and our ideology on their platforms. Amid all of this, Marco Rubio's State Department published a McCarthyist document on July 20th that listed a number of Democrat-aligned activist groups as supposed agents of Cuba. While CPI was not named in the document, the image we have relentlessly highlighted on our social media in recent months, used for the cover of our book, Out of the Movement to the Masses, and used as the poster for our upcoming national gathering, was featured on page 45 of the document, without any explanation or caption. We view this as confirmation that we are being watched closely by the State Department. Marco Rubio just held a bilateral meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Our organization is the most outspoken voice calling for the creation of a peace bridge or peace tunnel connecting Alaska to Russia over the Bering Sea. And this appears to be a fundamental issue in the negotiations with Russia aimed at ending the Ukraine war. 2 of our members have publicly spoken directly with Russian President Putin in 2024 at the World Youth Festival in Sochi. I personally greeted Kirill Dmitriev when he came to New York City. He gave remarks to the media about the Bering Sea Tunnel. Furthermore, I was recently personally invited to a reception with Joe Kent, the U.S. counterterrorism director who resigned in protest of the Iran war. Tucker Carlson recently recited the words, "Who are the Houthis? What are they fighting for?" in a broadcast, and then sat down with CPI friends Tara Reid and Olga Bataman for a full-length interview just weeks after I was personally on their set in Moscow. Furthermore, the Wall Street Journal has chosen to acknowledge the economic successes of North Korea in a headline article, and Trump has indicated he wants to have another meeting with Kim Jong-un. This is vitally important, as we at the Center for Political Innovation are the most outspoken friends and admirers of the Korean Workers' Party in America, convening weekly Juche study groups and distributing thousands of book lists across America highlighting the Kim Il-sung flower. In this context, our role as an organization cannot be underestimated, and the importance of our upcoming gathering cannot be downplayed. Many eyes will be watching our upcoming gathering in August very closely, and the way our organization is presented and the way our ideas are expressed must be done with the highest level of professionalism. Our organization represents the bridge connecting America with the rising new economy in the East. We point to a way out of globalism, imperialism, and the needed anti-monopoly coalition and mass movement fighting for working families to bring it into being. With our consistent activism and educational work, we do what no other organization can do. Our moment is getting closer, and tasks that only we can take on and accomplish effectively will soon be universally deemed necessary. In regard to Marco Rubio's document and the subpoena of breakthrough news by the U.S. Congress in the aftermath of Trump's delusional speech about supposed Chinese influence on American elections, a few points of clarity must be made. First, we offer nothing but unconditional support to any organization accused of being foreign agents or otherwise persecuted for their anti-war stance or peace activism. We oppose the subpoena of breakthrough news. We oppose the State Department using its platform to publish what is essentially a 21st century blacklist of activist groups. We will support those listed and targeted by the American government with donations, demonstrations, public awareness, and loud opposition to their persecution.
The Foreign Agents Registration Act is fundamentally unconstitutional, as its vague definition of lobbying makes it nothing more than an open threat to persecute any voice on international issues that the powers that be wish to silence. The law will never be enforced against Israel or other countries aligned with the United States, but will most certainly be used to prosecute or intimidate anti-war voices. It needs to be completely overturned. The Biden administration used the Foreign Agents Registration Act and the State Department to target the Uhuru movement, Scott Ritter, and others with international ties who were deemed to be enemies of the Democrat Party. Now, Marco Rubio appears to be using the same tactics to target activists who are deemed to be enemies of the Republican Party. Just as Democrats perpetrated the Russiagate hoax, disproven time and time again, now the Republicans are using the same kind of hysterical phobias about China to engage in similar repression. We must be clear that there is a fundamental spiritual difference between us and the communists of America. And despite our best efforts, we believe it is unlikely that many of them will stop seeing us as enemies or fascists. While we may sympathize with many of the same countries as the Party for Socialism and Liberation or Breakthrough News, we do so for very different reasons. We do not hate America. We love America. We are opposed to globalism imperialism, an economic system that is impoverishing the American heartland and waging murderous wars around the world for the profits of internationalist monopolies. We have a 4-point plan to rescue the country, restructure the economy to be growth-oriented by breaking the power of oil monopolies and high finance and utilizing the creativity and labor power of the American people to unleash a wave of growth and innovation. The PSL, the Communist Party, and various other groups offer no such positive vision. They instead seek to tap into resentment, envy, rage, and sexual frustrations in order to create unrest. Their anger is not at the economic system, making people all over the world, including Americans, poorer. Their anger is at the American flag, the Bible, and the bulk of the U.S. population on a cultural level. Instead of presenting a vision for lifting Americans up and joining with the rising new economy on a win-win basis, they assemble various offended and resentful identity groups and stoke their anger. Their vision is to burn it down as revenge for historic injustice. They do not dream of a peace bridge connecting us to Russia over the Bering Sea or a mass mobilization to rebuild America's infrastructure, but rather of various acts of vengeance and accountability they can impose on people within the country deemed to be privileged. While the bulk of America's communists completely disavow and denounce Joseph Stalin, who turned Russia into an industrial powerhouse and defeated the Nazis, many of them are admirers of Leon Trotsky and his theory of permanent revolution, hoping to spread endless chaos across the planet. This is a heritage they share with the neoconservatives, many of whom guided and laid the foundation for Marco Rubio's actions. When CPI first emerged in 2020 to 2021, it was met with universal hatred and hostility from communists. Though the Communist Party is usually silent about other groups, they published a long screed on their website calling us white supremacists. Social media hate campaigns, defamations, threats of violence, and even a picket line outside of our workshop in Minneapolis were put together. However, amid the left's campaign of deranged hatred, we established some very important friendships and alliances. We spoke up in support of the Uhuru movement when the FBI raided them in 2022 and welcomed them as heroes at our gathering in August. I was personally blackmailed, but we proceeded with the event. We arranged a United Nations press conference focused on the Uhuru case, and we spoke about it with Russian President Putin. As we got to know the Uhuru organizers, we discovered that our bond was deeper than simply opposition to U.S. foreign policy and government repression. The Uhuru movement is a fundamentally optimistic movement about empowering Black people with community projects. Chairman O'Malley and his followers constantly say, "We are winning." They create farmers markets, classes for pregnant mothers, and prison reentry programs. Despite whatever differences we may have, with their African internationalist ideology, it is a fundamentally constructive one. Likewise, we have established a friendship with the Unification Church, an anti-communist religious organization that has become a primary advocate of the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. The Unification Church's late founder, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, invested millions of dollars into building hotels and a state-run car company in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. He was also a strong advocate for building a bridge over the Bering Sea connecting the United States with Alaska. As Dr. Hak Jahan, Reverend Moon's widow, the Mother of Peace, faces prosecution in South Korea, we have organized demonstrations supporting her and worked to oppose the persecution of the church in Japan as well. In 2023, we reached out to Nodatal, the main leftist organization that advocates better relations with North Korea. We offered to participate in their rally, only to be met with hostile and an unfriendly response. Meanwhile, we were welcomed warmly and enabled to successfully participate in the New York City Peace March just months later with unificationists. These relationships are not always easy, and there are issues on which the Uhuru movement, the Unification Church, and CPI will never see eye to eye. But these relationships are possible, I believe, because there is a fundamental spiritual bond between us. We all believe in growth, optimism, and want to connect America with the rising new world in the East. Meanwhile, the left largely responds to us with anger. This anger is not logical or even based on any political positions that we hold. We believe the hatred from the left flows from the fact that they have embraced a negative, resentful worldview and strive for revenge and destruction, not reconciliation and the reconstruction of America or the world. We simply want different things. We have different underlying motivations. The left has embraced hate. We have embraced hope. We are happy to work with anyone who advocates for peace and improving the conditions of working families throughout America and the world. But the two successful relationships we have had indicate that cooperation is much more likely when this spiritual bond exists. Forces that embrace the dark energy so common among leftists are unlikely to be friendly to us. The midterm elections are likely to be full of surprises and provocations. The Democrats accuse Trump of being a fascist dictator, and the Republicans accuse the Democrats of being Marxist revolutionaries. Neither side has a solid vision for improving the country, and both sides are banking on presenting a nightmare caricature of their opponents in order to win votes. The economic fallout of the war and the potential to tie up Trump with impeachment proceedings makes the stakes very high. CPI does not support either side. The Democrats could have stopped Trump's war, and during his State of the Union, while they remained seated for many remarks, they rose to their feet to applaud when he threatened war against the Islamic Republic. Even if one side were fundamentally better, as a political education organization, we do not campaign or endorse any candidates. We view the midterms not as a struggle to render one of the major parties victorious, but as an opportunity. We want to use the midterm circus to spread anti-imperialism. We want to disrupt town hall events with candidates, both Democrats and Republicans. We want to cover major cities with anti-imperialist posters. We want to offer guidance to those who will turn to the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, or the new political regroupments being discussed by figures like Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson. In liberal democratic Western society, the leaders generally seek to keep the population disengaged. However, elections are the moment in which the bulk of the population is pushed to get involved and listen to political ideas. While we will use these elections to spread anti-imperialism, you will see CPI members on the news and across social media. You will see our posters all over major cities. You will be handed our books at political rallies. We have a major operation planned for the fall. The convention in August is aimed at solidifying our organization in order to make it happen. The 7-day national training program and the convention on August 15th will be about giving orientation, refining skills, and setting the stage for our important work this fall. We call on all members, former members, friends, and allies to attend the convention. Please register and join us on August 15th. Those who cannot attend, please donate. We will need as many people as possible to send $100, $50, or even $20 to support our work. In times like these, travel and housing costs are much higher than usual, and putting this convention together has been much more stressful than in previous years due to logistical and financing concerns. We have a unique vision and operation to pull off this fall. We need you to help us carry it out, either as a participant, an observer, or a background supporter. We must oppose war, political repression, and the continued economic demolition of our country. We must counter it with an optimistic vision of a government of action that fights for working families and connects us to the rising new economy in the East. We believe August 15th will be decisive in making the fall operation successful. Please join us, support us, and be part of making history. I will end by quoting a passage from the great Christian socialist writer Wallace Wattles. There are two mental attitudes a man may take. One makes him like a football. It has resilience and reacts strongly when force is applied to it, but it originates nothing. It never acts of itself. There is no power within it. Men of this type are controlled by circumstances and environment. Their destinies are decided by things external to themselves. The other attitude makes a man like a flowing spring. Power comes out from the center of him. He radiates force. He has within him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. He is felt by his environment. The principle of power in him is constant. He is self-active. He has life within himself. As an organization, we seek to awaken people from a state of maintaining a mere biological existence or living biologically, and empower them to take action, to find their voice and their role in the struggle. We view this as a highly noble mission and purpose, and we will not back down from this stated aim. Best, Caleb T. Maupin, founder and director of the Center for Political Innovation.
Yeah, that was my letter. And that's why I'm doing these morning chill streams, where I'm just getting on here and showing videos and speaking to everybody. I want to remain in touch with you all while I focus on other things throughout the day, because, yesterday it looks like we finally got the bands lined up, thanks to, the person who helped me out with that. And, thank you for doing that. And that was certainly a stressful process. And we're figuring out about the food. We're figuring out about the books. We're figuring out about all kinds of different stuff. We're all going to be in Chicago, next week, and it's going to be an important national gathering. And right now it's financially tough to do these things. And it's also difficult on some other levels as well. We're being pulled in many different directions, but we must build an anti-imperialist movement. And so CPI is doing it. And I have to focus on other things, but I figured it would be good to just start the day by checking in with all of you and having what they call a chill stream, where I just kind of get on here, show some videos, talk about what's on my mind, etc. So that's why I'm doing it, and keep an eye out for everything happening next week. I will say that later today, my video, the slideshow that I did last week about what does fascism actually mean, what does the word fascism actually mean, that's going to go up today as a standalone video. That'll go up this afternoon. So if you missed that slideshow or you want to watch it again, it was a very rich informational presentation I gave about what right-wing anti-capitalism is, etc. So that'll be going up on this channel this afternoon. And I'm not sure if Noah wants to do a Juche study group this week or not. So if there is one, I will, send that out to the people and we'll do it. But I don't know if we're doing one or not. So I'm waiting for Noah. No, it's Noah's project, is the Juche study group. So we finished the first volume of the book. And so last week we did the Juche study group. If you remember, last week we did just the kind of episodes from Kim Il-sung's life. So I don't know if Noah wants to do a Juche study group this week or not. But, if he does, fine. We do need to get volume 2 out. We've had 13 sessions of the Juche study group already, which is very, very, very cool. So, Yeah. No, the fact that North Korea is booming right now, and we are the American organization that supports North Korea. I'm going to show, this is Penny. Actually, before we go, I just want to show this video. This is Penny doing outreach about Kim Il-sungya with our Kim Il-sungya pamphlet at the University of Minnesota.
You ever seen this flower?
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing? Good. You ever seen this flower?
No.
It's called Kim Il-sungya. Find out all about it. Hello. Have you seen this flower? Have you seen this flower?
I think so.
You can't get it in America.
Okay.
It's called Kim Il-sungya.
Oh.
Yeah, North Korea.
Yeah.
It's grown all over North Korea because in 1964, Kim Il-sung went to Indonesia and they were growing this flower, and President Sukarno named it after Kim Il-sung as a symbol of eternal friendship between Indonesia and North Korea.
Okay.
This is Penny Arcos, the regional captain for the Minnesota chapter of Center for Political Innovation. I've been out here at the University of Minnesota passing out these books for a couple hours about the Kim Il-sungya flower. Had a lot of positive reactions. Most people were curious. They don't know much about North Korea, but they were willing to learn. It's called Kim Il-sungya. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it grows all over North Korea. In 1964, Carl Ludwig was growing it in Indonesia, and Kim Il-sung visited Indonesia and saw how beautiful it was. And so Sukarno, the president, decided to name it after Kim Il-sung as a symbol of eternal friendship between Indonesia and North Korea. And shortly after that visit, America overthrew Indonesia. Hello. Have you ever seen this flower?
No.
It's called Kim Il-sungya. CIA gave the information to the military to slaughter thousands of Chinese ethnic people and the supporters of Sukarno, because he had been a populist leader. He built infrastructure and schools and wiped out illiteracy. Obama's mother brought him to Indonesia, where he married his stepfather, and they were part of this slaughter.
What organization is it?
Center for Political Innovation.
All right.
Have you ever heard of it?
Left wing, center, right wing.
Well, we are innovationists, so we don't claim left wing, right. We claim that we want a government of action that fights for working families so that nations can develop and trade with each other instead of having forever wars. And we can break free from the world that's run by Wall Street and London and have innovation for everyone.
Siblings might support it.
Okay.
Because they're kind of...
This is a monument they built in Senegal for their struggle, for their freedom against the colonialism, when they broke free of colonialism. And they made a monument in Senegal for their independence. They supported the Black Panthers and Cuba. North Korea supported the Black Panthers in their struggle against the FBI and repression. So the economic system, World Economic Forum, they want you to live in a pod and eat bugs, right? Mm-hmm. And they want everyone to depopulate and degrow and hold back. But we understand that humans are creative and they want to grow. And despite all these wars, we have optimism. Mm-hmm. They call them dictators because they have an economic system that is not dominated by Wall Street. Are you going to school here?
I am, yeah.
What are you studying?
American Studies.
American Studies?
Yeah.
So what does that translate to in the real world?
History.
History. So you'd be a history teacher?
Probably not. I don't like academia anymore.
You've heard of Free Palestine, right? Everybody says Free Palestine. Well, they supported the Palestinian struggle against the imperialist globalist system. The ambassador of Palestine to North Korea and his wife were unable to conceive. And so what's really sweet is that Kim Il-sung sent a fertility expert to help them conceive. And that's their daughter, Jundale, which is named after another flower. And then this is about the Iran war. Democrats and Republicans are complicit. And
I agree.
The Greater Israel, we support a peace bridge across Russia and Alaska for development
Cool.
instead of war.
Awesome.
What's your name? the economic system that has broken free from Wall Street, we call it anti-imperialism. The economic system is globalism, imperialism, Wall Street, big banks that are waging all these wars to keep people down and keep it from developing like they're doing in West Africa right now.
Yeah.
But China broke free. They were controlled by the Japanese invaded, the British invaded. They broke free and they built 31,000 miles of high-speed rail. They have 5-year economic plans. What's happening to our bridges in America?
I don't know.
They're falling apart,
I didn't.
right? They're not investing. Right in that bridge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The Kerch Bridge from Russia to Crimea, it's indestructible. No matter how much Ukraine tries to destroy it with bombs, it's indestructible. We advocate for building a peace bridge from Russia to Alaska. And that's what the peace talks have been about. And hopefully these peace talks will have fruit this time. This is a project that's been in the works for many, many, many years. Instead of war with Russia, we would have development poles all across Alaska and Russia, and that would build the economy and just amazing stuff. And we have workshops.
Stop you, but I consider myself politically neutral, and we are Bible students.
Oh.
We promote God's kingdom as the solution to the problems that we're seeing in the world. As far as governments fighting governments, we're all God's people, all across the globe.
Yeah.
And so we have a global brotherhood. We have people in every country
Yeah.
across the globe.
Yeah.
And so we promote that versus,
Yeah.
man's government, which is
Yeah.
so divided.
You're true. And part of that is we believe that God is the creator of all beings and that human beings have a creative spirit. We want to innovate. We want to create. And the economic system that's run by Wall Street is holding that back. They want everyone to degrow and depopulate and live in a pod and eat bugs. And we do promote the spiritual aspect of human growth. And we do believe that there is a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And we want...
And that no one race is better than another race.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're right. And so we have a vision for America. We were outside the jail for Maduro, saying free Maduro. And when the siege on Palestine began, no jobs and schools for America, not weapons for Israel. So we want people to understand it's about the economic system. And we have a vision for America to just make it beautiful and everybody be able to get along. And we support countries that are breaking free of imperialism and globalism. So our founder has a vision for America that's bright and optimistic instead of all these wars. We want to partner with that system and have mass mobilization to rebuild the country, get all the unemployed, get all the troops home, build our bridges, build our schools, public ownership of natural resources so we can sell the timber and the gold and the oil on the market and invest in education and healthcare and public control of the banks. Right now we have a private bank called the Federal Reserve that lends money at interest. All these taxes are just going to the interest on the debt. And then Trump wants to $1.5 trillion for war, right? And because that's the only thing our economy is based on is war.
Yeah, we just sent all the money to go for the war, but then there's so many people in debt, there's so many people without homes, without food, and then there's little kids struggling.
Exactly, and that's because Wall Street owns our politics. And of course, the Zionist regime. We have a leader who has been around the world supporting anti-colonial, anti-imperial movements. He has spoken with Putin about the African People's Socialist Party. You remember Uhuru got raided and when Trump got raided, right? We support them. And he interviewed Ibrahim Raisi before he was mysteriously unalived. His family, Charles Finney, was a Christian pastor who was part of the mass movement of Christians against slavery. And so we're spreading a mission of hope. Instead of Wall Street that's holding back development and making all these countries poor, we want to ally with countries that are breaking free and break America free. You can, if you want to scan that, you can, or it's yeah.
Okay.
And we have a 4-point economic plan to rebuild America.
Yes, I have to run, but I'll definitely read it.
Yeah,
It's nice
yeah.
to meet you.
What's your name? In the end, everybody was very receptive to our economic plan, and they understood that Wall Street is holding us back, and they don't want these wars, and they do want development. Especially, we have all these kids that are studying, and are going to be in debt for the rest of their lives, and they want to study, and they want to grow, and they want to learn, and that's what the human spirit is about. So, it's been a great run.
Yep. And that's Cardew music, of course. Cornelius Cardew is the great composer, and we play his music on these streams a lot. And that was Penny doing outreach about Kim Il-sungya with our Kim Il-sungya booklet. And that's what CPI is about, going out and educating people about anti-imperialism. We have a job to do, and it's going to be really important come the midterms. All right, well, Penny sent a video about longevity in China. So we will put that on. Just to remind you all, the reason I'm doing these morning chill streams where I just kind of drink my diet soda, do the arms exercise, and just show videos and stuff is to keep in touch while we build as we're heading for the convention next week in Chicago. I'll be heading to Chicago. We're doing our national gathering, and it's going to be really important. So I hope that you can come and join us. The link to participate is in the chat. I hope you can also send us a donation. A donation would be greatly appreciated. cpiusa.org/donate. Send us a contribution because our funds are tight. So please send us a gift. All right. So on that note, we're going to put on the video that Penny sent about longevity in China, how they're increasing the life expectancy. There we go.
The Chinese are living longer. In 2025, China's average life expectancy hit a record 79.25 years, on track to reach 80 within the next 5 years. This is a highlight of the 2026 government work report. So, how will China achieve this goal? What has been done and what to do next? During this year's 2 sessions, I reached out to 2 CPPCC members who are on the front line of medical services to get a clearer picture.
近30年，我们中国的老年化人口的增速是世界第一的，而要达到这个里边最重要的，我自己认为是政府的制度的规划以及医疗科技的进步。中国健康行动的提出18个行动里边，政府都进行了相应的规划，并且做出了制度的安排。而科技的发展呢，比如说机器人的手术啊，人工智能辅助我们进行诊断啊，让我们这些老年患者能够得到早期更好的诊断和治疗。比如说进行相应的长期的慢性病的规范的治疗，以前不敢做的手术，现在能够完成手术，并且完成手术以后还有很好的生活质量。
各地政府非常关心老年人，在城市一级、省一级都有老年大学，在县里面呢都有专门供老年人生活、学习的地方。那哪怕是乡镇当中也有老年活动中心。第二个呢，很多社区有专门的卫生服务中心，在这些中心当中呢，有一些条件好的，他有专门照顾老人，或者是专门给慢病提供服务的全科医师。
By the middle of this century, the population aged 60 and above in China will exceed 500 million. The big question is, how do we make sure this huge group not only lives longer, but also healthier and happier?
以家庭为核心，社区为纽带，医疗为支撑的一个服务模式。在平常的时候我们进行支持，在有疾病的时候转到病房进行治疗以后，我们提出的15分钟养老圈，15分钟能够提供医疗服务。他的儿女和亲人下班以后，只要走15分钟以内的路程，就可以去陪伴老年人。不论是从这个老年人他的心理来讲，还是感受来讲，都会觉得很幸福，就是我还是能够跟我家人在一起。
现在我们实际上已经做到长寿了，跟建国的时候相比。那么怎样让这些人活得好，活得有质量，健康的活着，尤其是到最终有尊严的活着，这是一个非常大的课题。我们面对的群体的几个特征：第一个，人口基数巨大；第二个呢，对高血压的来龙去脉和危害性认识不足，我们要有针对性的对老年人群进行健康教育。第二个呢，要教他们有好的营养观跟生活习惯，因为高血压、慢性病跟饮食、跟活动、跟睡眠、跟心理、跟运动都有一定的关系，还要给他们提供适合老年人活动的场所进行健康锻炼。第四个呢，对老年人来说，因为年龄增大，记忆不大好可能健康教育不能一蹴而就，要反复多次，要有专门的机构、场所跟人员 对老年人反复进行多次的来来回回的健康教育，让他们养成一种习惯。
During the 50th five-year plan period, China aims to raise the average life expectancy to 80 years. How can we reach this 0.75-year rise from 79.25 to 80?
0.75岁的目标，我觉得少了一点。我们的医疗水平已经达到了国际的先进的行列，在这种情况下，我们可以对更多的疾病治疗和管理。第一个呢，慢病的管理，我一直呼吁把骨质疏松纳入我们的慢病的规范的管理，让我们所有的患者呢，比如说到了80岁以后，他还能够正常去生活、去旅游，能够运动，能够跟家人一起去幸福的生活，这就是我们的目标。
我们有不同的方式到基层区，指定性的帮扶，通过其他的各种专业渠道啊，或者是慈善机构等等，不定时的到社区去做一些健康教育，或者是给老年人治病等等。当然，这些脉冲式的一些活动还是不够的。我们希望在社区或者是县域有专门的地点、人才，有一套具体教育帮助老年人的工具啊、场所，让他们能够建立起好的生活方式，减少老年疾病。
From scientifically planning the healthcare system to stepping up chronic disease prevention, from creating a 15-minute elderly care circle to bringing AI into healthcare. These ongoing efforts are enhancing China's capacity to respond proactively to population aging, and this will be a key piece in the jigsaw puzzle proposed in this year's 2 sessions, Building a Healthy China by 2035.
Yeah, well, isn't that great to have a government that is actively trying to make the population live longer? I mean, why don't our politicians ever talk about that? You know, go to a press conference with Donald Trump or with J.D. Vance or Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom and say, hey, how are you trying to increase the life expectancy of Americans? That is absolutely awesome. Well, look, we're doing these chill streams because of the CPI convention coming up in Chicago. So register if you can, send us a donation if you can. I need to start getting about my day. But somebody in the chat said, no Communist Party, no new China. And that reminded me of a song. China and Russia are doing something right. Lots of activities for older people in both countries. It is great. Several, I know, over 100, God bless. Yeah, they have a government that actually manages the economy and cares about people, the government of action. Whereas in America, we have a government that just lets Wall Street loot us. So, yeah, here we go. I'm going to put on, the Communist Party of China song without communists. And then we're going to, I think we'll then go about our day.
Candy
Yep. That's us. That's Center for Political Innovation. We're building an anti-imperialist movement in America, and that is what we are all about. I see people in the chat who just don't get it, right? We advocate a peaceful transition to socialism. We do not advocate violence. However, we do advocate people's right to defend themselves. And if there is a violent revolution, that's always made by the capitalists. It's made by the rich and powerful. They decide to not allow the democratic process to violently respond to people's mass organizing. At that point, people have to defend themselves. We prefer a peaceful transition to socialism, but we know it's very likely that the ruling elite will resort to violence and terror to try and prevent that. And people have the right to defend themselves under such circumstances. This is a nuanced position. I get a lot of young LARPers online that get angry. Oh, you don't advocate violence. That means that you're not a real revolutionary. Well, no, real revolutionaries never advocate violence. And if you read what Mao Zedong said during the Chinese Revolution, if you read what was said by the Bolsheviks and Lenin, you read what's been said by revolutionaries all over the world, they advocate a peaceful transition. And if the ruling class doesn't allow it, then people have to defend themselves and defend their revolutionary movement. But it's extremely irresponsible to advocate violence because working people don't want violence. Violence is part of our everyday lives, right? Violence is part of this system, and we must oppose it, right? This is the correct position, to advocate a peaceful transition, but recognize that it's unlikely. And that there may come a time, there will most likely come a time where working people have to defend democracy like Abraham Lincoln did against those who would suppress democracy and against those who would suppress popular movements. That is the correct position, is to recognize that as we advocate a peaceful transition, unfortunately, the powers that be may not allow it, but never advocate violence, never act like we want violence, make clear that we would prefer a peaceful road to socialism. And we will pursue that and advocate that as long as it is possible. And this is a nuanced position. And I even have had people call me racist for this. Oh, you're white. That's why you want peaceful transition. Well, actually, outside of your little niche, go to an average black person in America and say, do you want violence and civil war in your neighborhood? They're going to say no. Right. That advocating violence is something that makes people feel really tough and strong, but it's not a serious, it's not a serious political position. No serious political force advocates civil war in their own country. Right. Such things, violent revolutions only happen when the road to a peaceful transition is gotten rid of. And that we have to be careful about this, right? It's one thing to say that, that you don't believe in changing the system. You don't want a new revolutionary state, things like that. That's one thing. It's another thing to say that you advocate violence and that we should not ever advocate violence. We want a peaceful road to socialism. And the only reason that violence would happen is that violence would come from the ruling class to prevent it. And under such circumstances, as patriotic Americans, we believe in the right to armed self-defense. People have the right to defend themselves. And there's a difference. There's a nuance there that you have to be careful about. And that people that make that the issue, oh, how dare you not advocate violence? They're not serious political forces. They're irresponsible. Because if you're a serious political force and you're advocating violence, you go to prison and, or you get shot and killed, right? You can't build a serious political movement that advocates violence, number one. And second of all, working people won't join your movement because they don't want violence. We're not trying to create violence. We're trying to create peace. We're trying to create a better, more prosperous world, and that if you go around advocating violence, you're not a serious political actor. You're not building a mass movement because working people don't want more violence. And on top of that, you're not serious because if you were building an actual movement, if you just talk on the internet, no one cares. But if you're building a real movement and you're advocating violence, the government will destroy you. All right. And you may say it may be legal, right? Brandenburg versus Ohio. It may technically be legal to advocate violence, but the government will destroy you if you're going around advocating violence. We must build a peaceful movement against imperialism, right? A mass movement of working people demanding a government of action with the understanding that there may come a time where such a peaceful mass movement is faced with so much political repression that it has no choice but to protect itself and engage in the American right of self-defense. You know, that is something that people have the right to do. You don't have to just lay back and be killed. You have the right to defend yourself when you're under attack. But advocacy of political violence is called adventurism, and this is something that must be opposed. And this nuance is something that many people don't get. Many people are just interested in this kind of politics to feel good about themselves. And that's part of why we don't call ourselves communists. We are innovationists, because many people who are attracted to the communist label, it's just a way to feel good about themselves. They're angry. They have a dictator fantasy, right? They want to be, they want to kill people, or they want to at least fantasize about killing people or something. We're not interested in that. We want to make a better country. We want prosperity and peace. And it's not about revenge. It's about investing in the next generation and having a government that invests in the people. That's what we need more than anything. And that's why we're the Center for Political Innovation. We are building a serious anti-imperialist movement in America that is not advocating violence, that is advocating a government of action. We have a 4-point economic plan on our website about what it is that we advocate, a transitional program that we advocate. 4 points: public control of banking, public controlling of our natural resources, hiring the next generation of youth to go out and rebuild the country, a mass employment program to rebuild America, and an economic bill of rights to invest in the people with education and healthcare and full employment. We have a transitional program, a program of what could really be done. And we want to build a mass movement on the basis of that, and on the basis of friendship with the people of the world. We want to build the peace bridge connecting to Russia over the Bering Sea. We want to build a serious mass anti-imperialist movement demanding that we have a government here in America that invests in the people. That's the road to do it, not advocacy of violence, not adventurism, not terrorism, and not being stuck in the communism thing. Because if you get stuck in the communism thing, it's just a loop, right? Communism has been the devil in America for so long. And unfortunately, if you wave that flag and if you wave that, banner, you attract people that want to be satanic. And we don't want to be satanic. We want to be Christ-like, right? We want to do what's right. We want to build a society where people are cared for. We want to live for the sake of others. Right. Yeah, and this person's pointing out African communists do not pander to that violence adventuring. We know the violence is from the system. Yeah, people get it. In other countries, the way we talk is pretty common sense. But in America, the politics is so confused. We have to build a movement that makes clear what we're for, and that we're an optimistic, positive movement about growth and construction. We love Ibrahim Traore, the great African leader. We love China and Russia, and we demand that we have a government here that is trying to expand our life expectancy and increase longevity. That's what we're demanding in America, a government of action that will fight for working families. But anyway, we're past 2 hours actually, and I've probably got to start getting on with what I need to take care of for today. Again, these are chill streams. These are not big epic performances. I'm just getting on here and talking. Keep an eye out for the video on the fascism slideshow from last week. That's going to go up today. We may do a Juche study group tonight, and we may not. It's really up to Noah. I'm just waiting for Noah to confirm because he's the leader of the Juche study group. And so on that note, folks, again, come to the convention. And if you can shoot us a contribution, if you can shoot us $10, $5, $50, $100, anything you can do to help us do the convention would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Funds are very tight right now, but it must be done. We need to build a movement. That's the only thing that's going to get us out of this is a movement. So please send us a contribution for the convention. Please register for the convention if you're any chance you can be there. We just want to have people there to get involved in our movement. The link to register for the convention is in the chat. It's in the description. I'll drop it in the chat one more time. And I've got a lot to do between now and the convention next week. And so, thank you for being part of this movement. Thank you, everybody, for being part of this movement. I believe in building a movement. I believe in that. And we've dealt with a lot of bullshit, and we just keep going because we are committed to building a real movement. So come to the convention next week, register. If you can't come, please send us a contribution, cpiusa.org/donate. We have got a job to do. Dare to struggle, dare to win, everybody. Thanks for being here. I don't know, maybe tomorrow we'll do another chill stream. I'm going to do at least a couple more chill streams this week. But, you know, I've got a lot to do for the convention, but I wanted to make sure I don't lose track of all of you. I want to make sure to check in with all of you. So if you like these morning chill streams, yeah. My friend in the Far East, he likes it. So there we go. All right. Thanks, everybody.